Hey everybody, I'm so grateful to be joined here by my friend Kady Ayoubi. We've talked about doing this for a little while, so I'm glad we finally were able to do it. Thank you for joining me, Kady.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So Kady and I got the chance to work together this past summer at the Monterey County Business Council. She joined the team for a period of time as kind of a marketing consultant, helping us with our digital media and our strategy and stuff like that. And so we got to work together in that time and got to know a lot about you. And one of the things that I loved not only was your skills with marketing, but I found out that you had uncommon skills for your kind of age group. And I always thought it was
Yeah.
really cool to see all the things that you were into that we're going to talk about here, right? Like bowling and golf and crochet,
Mhm.
which were not typical college student activities, but but you are
Yeah.
definitely making them cool, and I think getting a lot of people interested. So anyway, thank you so much for joining, and why don't you tell us kind of where you grew up and a little bit of your background?
Yeah, so originally I'm from Lebanon. I moved to the States when I was 17, and it's a really hard life in Lebanon, but I'm really happy that I grew up there because it made me into the person I am. And once I got to the States, there's just so much available here in the States that is not available in Lebanon. So I just try
Mm.
to make the most out of my stay here. I really hope that I continue living here in Monterey and just in the US in general, just because there's so many opportunities there are here that are not in other
Mm.
countries. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely, the US is not perfect, definitely has its issues, but it definitely is better than other places, certain places, for
definitely.
different reasons.
Yeah. I feel like Lebanon, it has its pros, it also has its cons. I feel like the same thing goes for the States, but just
Hmm.
opportunity-wise, I'm just happy I'm here.
Yeah, totally. So you have a very unique background being from Lebanon, but your mom is American?
My mom is American,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what it was. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so was your first language Arabic or English?
It was a mixture of both. I'm slowly not forgetting, but just I'm very rusty on my Arabic just because it's been so long since I've been in Lebanon. I'm going this summer back to Lebanon. So I'm just gonna brush up on my Arabic, but it's been so long and Arabic is such a hard language. So unless you're constantly practicing it every day, it's pretty hard to remember.
Yeah, it's not fair because, English is my first language, Spanish is my second, but Spanish is all around us here in California, right? So it's a little bit easier to like keep it going. But for sure, once you go to Mexico or it just comes it comes so much easier because you're surrounded by it, right? I'm sure it's the same way when you're in Lebanon.
Yeah. I also like how yeah, I really want to learn Spanish. There's also a lot of similarities between Arabic and Spanish, so yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my passions is history and geography, and it's fascinating to me how many people, especially in the U.S., don't understand the connection between North Africa, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean,
Mhm.
and so we're all kind of cousins, right? If you
Yeah.
really trace it back, there's a lot of similar, obviously not only DNA but also culture and words, right? And
Mhm.
so, I mean, simple things like depending on who
Zapato.
you ask, some Turkish people claim credit, some Lebanese people claim credit for tacos al pastor, like we've talked
Mhm.
about before, right? Which is
Mhm.
like shepherd style, but that's something the shawarma or coming on a stick and like using it with a pita, maybe in the Middle East or in the Mediterranean, but here in the West we use it, with tortillas and it's tacos, right? So just like
Yeah.
it's a simple example.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, so I just try to, like, make the most out of just being here in the States, yeah.
Yeah. So I know
Yeah.
you were at Monterey Peninsula College while you worked at MCBC, and then you transferred to CSUMB this fall, correct?
Yes.
And how we were just talking about that offline. How has that been? How are you liking CSUMB?
It's really nice. I really there's so much opportunities there, so many opportunities there at CSUMB, just even having those connections with your professors. The professors are very good in their fields. It's really and they connect you with other people in their field, whatever it is you're studying, you're going to get connected with your professors are going to connect you with other people. It's just very valuable and I feel like you can't really put a price on those connections that you create. And yeah, and I'm really excited to continue with my journey at CSUMB because I wanna get my MBA.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Well, I understand. I actually moved away right after high school. I went to a church based school in Canada for 2 years and then moved back and moved away, moved back. I think in your 20s, you do a lot of that kind of like trying out
mhm,
different things, which everybody should.
yeah,
And I understand some folks, they're like, oh, I don't want to go to NPC or Heart now because it'll just be like high school, or I don't want to go to CCMB because I want to get out of this area. I totally understand people have that mentality. I got away in my 20s. And I think you should travel and experience the world. However, we are so fortunate to have the local community colleges that we have and the local universities that we have right in our backyard. Um, and it's like and you're right, the professors are so helpful, the staff is so helpful. I wish I would have done this in my 20s. I decided to do it in my 40s like a crazy person while working full time. But I've been so grateful for my experience at Hard Now, and I can't wait to get to CSUMB. Everyone I've met there has been so positive and encouraging, so I'm excited.
mhm, that's awesome, and you'll be transferring there this, fall or
Next spring, so
next
spring of
spring?
26. Spring
Okay.
of 26, yeah. So I got 2 more semesters at Hartnell. And I started off a little slow because I was adjusting. So now then since then I haven't taken a break. I've done summer school
Mhm.
and
Oh my
full-time
goodness.
classes, which is insane. Yeah, it's crazy. I have a
Oh
lot of
my
respect to everyone who is in college or in college with kids or in college with a job. I mean, it's not easy, but it's worth it, right?
definitely, yeah, but that's great that you're doing that.
So thank you. You were on the traditional kind of American path, right? High school,
Mhm.
college, which is great. But then you have these unique kind of hobbies that you've been able to turn into business. So, well, one, the golf and the bowling thing, that's pretty cool. That's not really your
Mhm.
business, but the crochet, that is become a really cool and successful business. And you are blowing up on social media. I love all
Yeah.
the content that you create around your
Oh
business.
my
So why
god.
don't you tell us, how did you even get started with that?
So, I started I started crocheting, and then I really liked the what I was making, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't wanna just have it and keep it, store it away and not have anyone see it. So, like, why not make a page for it?" And I realized that no one was gonna see it if I didn't post constantly. Because if I do post constantly, then the I realize that the algorithm really favors you if you just
Hmm.
always keep posting.
Yep.
So that's when I started, being really consistent with what I was showing to the public, and then I noticed a trend, kind of like my views and my follower count growing exponentially.
Hmm. Especially on TikTok, right?
Especially on TikTok, yeah, and TikTok really, like I have over 10,000 followers there now, and I know the last time we talked, I was like, "I'm on my way to reaching
Yeah.
10,000."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I
That's
surpassed
that's
that.
goals. That's goals.
Yeah, and it's nice because now I'm able to monetize, and although I'm not fully taking advantage of it, I'm just the way I got there was I didn't have that in mind, I didn't wanna monetize, but
Right.
I just loved creating content, and then I eventually got there. And then
Well,
yeah,
so many people now, especially Gen Zers, that's what they want to be, right? That wasn't really a career option before, but now it really is to be a content
yeah,
creator. But
people pay their rent
what's
with
cool with what you're doing is if you're just like a content creator for the sake of content, it's hard sometimes to come up with ideas. But for you, it was a way to promote your business. Now they
exactly.
kind of go hand in hand. You're creating the content and you're creating the pieces that you make, and then you're really sharing them in a creative way. So like it's pretty cool. And I mean, I might buy one as a gift, but I would never like crochet. I'm not going to crochet with these
Yeah,
big old hands, like, and
yeah,
um, you know, it's not. I'm not necessarily your target audience, but I love your content. Just
yeah.
because I can see how creative it is. But how did you first get inspired to even start with crocheting?
So it was after COVID, and it was kind of in the midst of everyone still staying at home, and I just got so bored. I was walking down the aisles of the, like, Hobby Lobby or something, and I'm like, it would be really nice because it was winter at that time to just sit down next to a fireplace and just crochet or, like, just hold yarn in your hand because I was so chilly." So that's how I started, and, yeah, and I've just learned how to crochet. I taught myself how to crochet through YouTube, and now I teach at the local community college.
That's
Yeah,
so cool. That's
yeah,
so cool. I love that. I think the pandemic inspired a lot of that because people had time on their hands for the first time in a long time.
mhm,
Inspired things like gardening and cooking and baking and crocheting, skills
yeah,
that before were essential, right? Because you weren't going to the department store to buy everything. You were making it yourself. You're fixing it yourself. And
mhm,
so those skills, though, in the last 50 years have greatly declined. But thank God to YouTube University, we've been able to relearn some skills that
literally,
we should have been passed down, right? And
mhm.
so, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. When did you go from, oh, this is a fun like hobby to, I think this could be a business?
When a lot of people started wanting my stuff, like, just the people around me. So, it was really when I'd make something, my friends or family members or just extended family members would say, "I really want that, how much?" And then I started promoting it on Nextdoor. And then
You're really hanging out where the old people hang out,
yeah.
man.
Well, that's just my audience. I just those are my
I
people.
love it. Those are your two extremes. You have TikTok and you have Nextdoor.
I do, yeah. And so they really liked my stuff, and then I would make custom orders and go deliver them to next door or to people from next door. And yeah, and that's just how I started. And then with demand, I started making more. And
That's so
yeah,
cool.
it's great.
I don't know if you remember, but we were having one of those supervisor luncheons or where we had, some like local politician who was like a big deal come and talk to our audience. And I remember thinking to myself, there was this lady there who wasn't normally there, and she was knitting while
Oh my
the
goodness.
oh, it was the chancellor of UC Santa Cruz was talking and giving a talk about UC Santa Cruz and the history. And here's this lady just right there crocheting. And I thought to myself,
Oh my
how
god.
rude is this lady? You know? But I guess it's totally normal. Like people
Yeah,
do that. And then I thought, you know what? That's like the original fidget spinner. Like that was
yeah,
just her. She wasn't even looking. She just was so into her
yeah,
whatever scarf or whatever she was making. And I thought it was rude, but I guess other
yeah.
people thought, well, that's just what people do when they're, kind of
And
sitting there.
I noticed that when I crochet and when someone's talking to me, I actually my senses, like, for hearing is a lot more alert than when,
Hmm.
because when for example, when I'm looking around and stuff like that, I just get distracted by everything there is to see. But then when I'm working on what I'm doing, it's more like I'm not really looking at anything. It's just kind of motion, like, muscle movement or whatever, and I'm
Muscle
just
memory. Yeah.
muscle memory, and I'm able to listen more, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, sometimes they say like for folks that are blind, their hearing improves or vice versa. Like if you're without one sense, then your other senses get stronger.
Mhm,
Um, and you're right. I mean, it's there's so many distractions out there, especially on our phone. But having one of those old, what do they say, tactile skills that where you're working with your hands and you have to focus. Even for
mhm,
me as a musician, I've been playing music for 30 years almost.
mhm,
Um, and I'm good enough to where I don't really have to look for certain instruments and certain songs. Some I do, but like
mhm.
the other day I played a show and just because I was slightly nervous, I was confident, but I was also like, don't mess up, don't mess up. So I'm watching my fingers, don't mess up, don't mess
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And even if you've been doing it for years, you still have those moments where you're like, focus, focus, focus. You know,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah,
this muscle memory kicks in. But
yeah, and of course, like, the more you do it, the more you don't even have to well, I'm sure you still get nervous, but you don't even have to think about it, in my opinion. I don't know if
well,
you're ready for a
yeah,
show.
you get, you have a certain confidence that comes from practice, but
Mhm,
there's just, sometimes it'll throw you wild cards when it comes to like live performances, right? It's like, depending on the venue or the crowd you just never know what you're walking into. And so
mhm,
you can think you're fully prepared. And then sometimes you'll get a curveball, like the lighting's too bright or people are being loud or
mhm.
whatever. So equipment breaks or things happen.
Yeah,
So that can throw you off your game. You got to really be like focused. But
mhm.
so okay, you had some friends on Nextdoor, and then when did you realize, oh shoot, this is like a real business? Besides just like making a few here for your friends and family, it was like, okay, I'm getting orders online, I'm shipping things, I'm doing farmers markets. Like when did it start with that?
Well, I really had when I realized it was a real business, that's when I actually registered as an LLC.
Nice.
And so I had to do all those documents and everything and get registered with the state and stuff like that. And I that's when that was when I had to do farmers markets. So I had to have an ID and stuff
Hmm.
like that, and that was more specifically for the Carmel Farmers Market.
Mm.
Well, not farmers market, sorry, it was the Home Crafter. Was it the Home Crafter event?
Like a festival or something like
Like, it
a.
was a festival, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's when I had to really, like, buckle down and be like, "Okay, this is a business."
You need a sales permit and all the things. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah, now I'm, like, getting more into like, before I used to hand stamp all my, like, labels and stuff, but now I have, like, an official, like, logo that is all on stickers. I print them myself actually, and yeah, I'm like
that's
they're,
awesome.
like, right here. I'm, like, looking at them.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
Files,
grab
yeah.
grab them. Show us. Show us.
It's like well, it's like it's like all my little
Nice.
yeah.
And how did you come up with the name? I mean, it's a very clever name.
Well, I remember, like, thinking, like Monterey Bay crochet, like, it kinda rhymed. So I'm like,
Hmm.
"Why don't I just say, by the bay crochet?" So it's like it
Yeah.
was yeah, it took me I'd had a few names before the the name I have now, like, I called it Kady Co or something. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really like that." And then called it my mom's like, "I'm really into lavender, call it Lavender Fair." I'm like, "Yeah, I named it that." I'm like, "I don't know if it has a nice ring to it." But By the Bay Crochet, I liked how that one
Yeah, and
sounded.
you don't limit it to one color or one city. It's because there's lots of bays around the world, right?
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, how now that you're kind of going in as a business major and also you're running a business, like you probably have a different experience in your or a different, um, you know, part of your story that you can share with your classmates because you're actually running a business and you're
Mhm.
running a startup from scratch and you're producing. Some people will do wholesaling where they just buy and resell products, but you're actually making them. You're the whole company, right? You're doing the marketing, you're doing the
Yeah.
packaging, you're doing the design, you're doing the manufacturing.
Mhm.
How has that like made your classroom discussions different? Because you're actually like you're learning it in a different way by doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's really fun when I'm in class and we're talking about definitely classes are a lot more interesting for me, I feel like, more than most people
Yeah,
because I really integrate that into my day-to-day life, and I really am excited to use what I learn in class in my, business.
right.
Um,
Can you give us an example?
like, for example, my class that I'm taking this semester, one of them is sales,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of it's really it's really about selling people n what they need rather than what you want them to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of realizing there's a need in the market and then fulfilling that need, and I'm just kind of like asking myself, "Okay, what kind of need is there for crochet in the market?" Trying to figure that out. So that's what I've been trying to think, lately.
Well, I
Uh
think it's not a necessarily a I don't know as commonly known need, but I
Mhm.
do believe that people are looking for alternatives to mass produced plastic or
Yeah.
chemical, polyester,
Yeah.
or people are trying to get more local. They're trying to get more craftsmen and artisan. Obviously, with the explosion of Etsy and those kind of sites. People really want to see things that are handmade or made locally or made of quality materials, and they're willing to pay a little bit more for them.
Yeah, and I noticed that people who buy my stuff, they are from 2 main places, which is I get a lot of orders from West Hollywood and New York,
Ah,
and those places, I feel like they really value uniqueness because they can probably get the same old thing from anywhere, but they really want something that none of their friends have seen before as gifts.
mm,
So they see my stuff and they're like, Yeah,
Uniqueness. Yeah.
yeah, it's unique, so they buy it, and I noticed that it's just I love seeing the locations of where my items are going to because it's just so interesting to me, like,
That is cool.
who's ordering my stuff, you know? And
Yeah.
I don't charge my stuff for cheap too because I really value my labor that I put
Yeah.
into my items, and
Yeah.
I think that really also filters my customer base.
Yeah.
'Cause I noticed when I used to charge cheap, like, I used to charge, my hou like, not much for my hourly wage, I did not like my customer base, like, they were very choosy and
Yeah.
about yeah, they
Yeah.
were not fun to be, dealing with.
Yep.
But when I charged it for double, triple the rate, I really love, like, my customers, like, they're like, "Oh, if it's gonna take a month to make, no worries, I'll wait 2 months," and stuff
Right.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, and they don't really teach you that in business school, but being cheap is it's not really a financial or it's not really a dollar amount. Cheap is kind of
Yeah,
a mentality, and
yeah,
cheap people complain. Cheap
yeah,
people um, always looking for a deal or a discount and don't respect your
mhm,
work. And it's the same in music, right? Cheap people are yeah. People who are going to complain are usually cheap. And again, it's not. I mean, I don't come from much. It's not about how much money you have, but when people that are willing to invest in quality or they value your time as an artist and as a
mhm,
creator, they're willing to pay for that. And that's someone who likes extravagant things, whether they're expensive or not. They have a value of quality and they're willing to pay for it and they support brands like yourself. So that
yeah,
to me that's the difference. And it's not
yeah,
about like if you're rich or poor. It's about are you cheap or are you
mhm, yeah.
quality.
Yeah. Yeah, but I really thought that was so interesting and just like, the price matters for both customers and the artist or
Right.
the business owner. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's always hard whether it's a service or a product. It's hard to, especially for creatives, because again, I
Mhm.
mostly worked in music and in like marketing and even for like social media management or whatever. It's really hard to know sometimes what to charge, right? Because you see other people, you're like, wow, I can't believe they get that price for that.
Yeah,
And then you feel like, man, I should probably charge more, but I don't want to like lose my customers either. I want to still
yeah.
be accessible, right? So it's always those things that you have to debate. But where can people find you? I love your content, and I think more people need to see it. So where's the best place for people to find you?
So my website is bythebaycrochet.com and all of my socials are integrated onto that. And yeah, so just Instagram by the bay underscore crochet, TikTok by the bay crochet, and
Awesome.
YouTube by the Big Crochet as well. I'm
Okay.
recently getting onto YouTube. I have over 2,000 subscribers now, which is nice.
Wow, look at you, man. I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm behind you, but I need to. I'm going to be putting in the work to grow in all those areas as well. So
definitely once like one like I really want to grow on YouTube because that's where all the money is. They You can really monetize on YouTube more than any other platform in my opinion. If you're actually more than
yes,
TikTok even.
yeah. Well, TikTok is great, but obviously politically it's unstable. I
Yeah.
feel like YouTube is an American-based company and it's a little bit more consistent. And what's nice about YouTube is it's evergreen content, right? So meaning with TikTok and Instagram, it's like you got to catch them in the algorithm right
Yeah,
away, or you might not. Where even it is a bit of a search engine, YouTube is more of a search engine, meaning like people looking for your video can find a 3-year-old video and you're still going to get
exactly.
views and ad revenue from that, so which is cool. So I think I made my first like $3 from Instagram the other day. I was so excited. And I'm starting to grow in my numbers on all the other platforms as well, so it's a hobby at this point, but it's fun and it's something that I wanted to do. So I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. I love your
Yeah.
story and I love seeing, what you're up to next. I know you're going to be graduating with your business degree and kind of taking things to the next level. So I hope everybody checks out your pages and I hope that to continue to follow your journey. So thank you so much for your time and congratulations on all your success.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Talk soon. Bye.